The story begins in a hilly area, where a young magic student called Spica prepares herself to take off from a cliff and fly for the first time. Below the cliff, her friend, Aria, warns Spica that her skeleton will transform into a pretzel if she fails the fly. Ignoring her taunt, Spica chants a flying spell with great focus and runs towards the edge of the cliff. As she finally jumps off, it looks like Spica is about to succeed. But then, reality hits her harder than a slap from Truck Hun. She fails the takeoff and collapses to the ground, but luckily, the hard ground spares her life. Despite Spica's awful injuries, Aria takes this chance to make fun of her. Spica doesn't take her mockery to heart, though instead, she speaks about her dreams with dreamy eyes, wanting to study in Diana Academy, where the legendary sorcerer called Claude Sirius is a professor. Claude is one of the world's 10 first-class sorcerers, and it's said that his magic has the power to move stars. Naturally, Spica idolizes a powerful sorcerer like him, so she uses him as a source of motivation for her training. However, Aria reminds her of the brutal reality that she can't even use a single spell. Then, she also points out that Claude has fallen off recently. Apparently, some time ago, a group of dangerous cultists attacked Diana Academy. Back then, Claude ran away like a coward, so he got the reputation of being all talk. Hearing this, Spica grows silent, but she still remains defensive about her idol. Aria realizes that she went too far, so she hugs her and apologizes. Spica remains mad at her, so Aria reminds her that if she keeps going like this, she'll fail the entrance exam for the Diana Academy. She suggests hiring a magic tutor, but Spica can't do that since her parents are having trouble feeding all their kids. Thinking about her broke family, Spica starts crying, so Aria takes pity on her. As a genius of water magic, she promises to teach her everything she knows to help her join the Diana Academy. Right after making this announcement, Diana tells Spica that she can pay for her services with her body, so she gets upset that she's still joking. Without anyone's support, Spica continues her self-learning journey. However, her next attempt once again results in a catastrophic failure. As Spica cries about her hopeless situation, a nearby black kitten gets mad at her for disturbing its nap. Suddenly, Spica realizes that a cat somehow spoke to her, and the cat also gets shocked that she can understand it. Spica wonders if the black cat is a magic beast in disguise, but the cat gets offended and blows her away. After Spica falls for the billionth time in the present hour, the cat warns her to never call it a beast again. It proudly explains that it was once a human magician, but it was trapped in a cat's body by a curse. Hearing this, Spica begs the cat to become her master since it could teach her some useful magic spells. After learning that Spica wants to join the Diana Academy, the cat wonders if she's missing half her brain. Spica knows that she's basically got no chance, but she stubbornly refuses to quit and begs the cat to teach her. The cat refuses and starts to leave, so Spica stops it and offers to do anything it wants as long as it helps her get into the Diana Academy. Hearing this, the cat finally gets interested and turns around with a malicious look in its eyes. Spica thinks it wants to do some illegal stuff with her, but she still feels prepared to do it for the sake of her career. However, the cat shuts down her perverted thoughts and decides to take her as an apprentice slave. Spica thanks him for its apparent kindness, and her new master tells her to visit the capital city to begin their training. Once they arrive at the capital, Spica wonders why the cat brought her there. For her first assignment, the cat tells her to chant a spell called "Bring me a drink." Hearing Spica shout the spell, a nearby waitress takes her order and brings over the drink. Realizing she got scammed, Spica screams at the cat for abusing her and tells it to pay for itself. However, she notes that all the people around them are treating the cat like a normal animal, so she's really the only person who can talk to it. Meanwhile, the cat feels traumatized by Spica's furious outburst, so it decides to give her an impossible task to make her quit magic. It takes her to the royal library, where most of the world's precious knowledge is stored. The cat explains that it's looking for a book called the Book of Providence, which supposedly grants its reader the ability to see everything. Using this ability, the cat wants to undo its curse, so he orders Spica to find the book from the library in 1 month. Spica wonders if he will help her search the gigantic maze of books, but he shows her that if an animal touches anything valuable, an alarm goes off and the guards chase it off. Spica complains that there's no way she can find the book so quickly, but the cat tells her to quit magic if she can't. Left with no other choice, she starts painstakingly sifting through the library's massive stores. As she reads a certain book about cat transformations, it actually transforms her into a cat herself. herself. The black cat explains that any spellbook could immediately activate, so she should be careful when reading them out loud. After a long while of traumatizing spells, Spica loses all her motivation for the rest of the day. Seeing her so exhausted, the cat thinks she'll give up in just 3 days. However, as the days go by, Spica continues her search despite all the obstacles in her way. After 29 days of searching, the black cat finds her studying an ancient language. The cat wonders why she's reading an irrelevant book, but Spica explains that she's trying to understand ancient languages since the Book of Providence is most likely written in one. Hearing this, the cat gets impressed by her wisdom, but it reminds her that the final day is already over, so she has failed her mission. Without sparing another second, the cat starts leaving the library. Spica still begs it to teach her, so he wonders why she's so obsessed with joining the Diana Academy. Feeling flustered, she explains that she wants to join the academy to see her beloved master Claude. The cat reminds Spica that Claude is just a fraud, but she dismisses it as a false rumor. She explains that she has seen Claude's strength with her own eyes since she was present at the cult attack. Back then, the situation had seemed hopeless as the cult had destroyed most of the city. One by one, the people around Spica also lost their lives to the cult. At some point, she gave up all hope and prepared herself for death, but suddenly, the legendary Claude appeared and defeated the beast that was about to attack her. After defeating the ferocious beast, Claude comforted Spica and praised her for staying strong throughout the vicious attacks. At that moment, the young girl instantly fell in love with him, and she decided that she'd join the Diana Academy no matter what. While gushing over Claude, Spica declares that she'll become a magician like him who can risk their own life to protect other people. Hearing this, the cat feels surprised. Then, it suddenly mocks Spica for wanting to protect strangers since she'd get nothing good out of it. Spica remains silent, hoping that he stays in its animal form forever. Meanwhile, as the cat starts heading out again, Spica notices some hidden text on a giant book cover in the hall. Interested, the cat joins her to inspect the cover since Spica can read the ancient language. She reads the text written on the cover, which forms a secret code. As she speaks the hidden code, a lock gets broken around the cover, revealing a huge book inside. Once the book opens, it shows a dark hall, and the cat praises Spica for finding the hidden passage. He thinks that the strange portal might be hiding the Book of Providence, so it enters it with Spica. After they cross the passageway together, Spica is impressed by the massive night sky stretching outside the exit. There, the cat notes that the book is hiding in extra-dimensional space, where the owners of the library are storing their most secret books. Spica wonders if the Book of Providence is also inside, and suddenly, a voice rings out from a nearby tombstone. This voice declares itself to be the Book of Providence, and it reassures Spica that it's the real deal. Spica wonders how the book knows her name, but it reminds her that it can literally see everything. She then asks the book if it knows how to undo her friend's curse. The Book of Providence confirms that it knows how to undo the curse, and it explains that the kitty's soul has been transferred into another body using forbidden magic. However, it also reveals that Spica can undo the curse by using her rebirth magic on him. Hearing that she has such a powerful ability, Spica almost forgets her own name. She then wonders if she can really use the rebirth spell, so the book reminds her of how easily her wounds heal. Spica finally recalls all her failures from flying and realizes that it's not normal to survive a 100-meter fall with just a bloody nose. As Spica gradually gains a massive boost in self-esteem, she cheers up and regains hope for her future. Meanwhile, the black cat also feels excited to finally return to its human form. Spica asks the book how she can cure the cat of its curse, so it tells her to inject her magic inside its body with a kiss. This leaves the young girl flustered, and she refuses to give her first kiss to a fake cat with a human soul. Then, the cat gets mad at her since it just wants to be free, and it screams at her to just shut off her brain and finish the job. However, the book stops both of their fantasies by pointing out that the curse isn't broken by a kiss on the lips. Instead, the book declares that she must kiss the cat where the sun never shines. This time, Spica goes into a complete panic mode since breaking the curse sounds like the worst romantic comedy ever. The cat also agrees, wondering why the kiss needs to be in such a weird place. The book explains that by kissing the cat on the butt, Spica can help the magic spread more quickly through its body. Spica wonders if there's really no other way to break the curse, but before she can ask the book, she notices a library guard approaching them, but the guard suddenly collapses in front of everyone. Before passing out from his injuries, he warns Spica that the library is under attack from the cultists. Behind the guard, a vicious two-headed Orthus appears and roars inside the magical space. The black cat notes that the cultists were taken down by the military after their famous incident, so this attack must be led by a straggler group that managed to hide. Spica runs away from the beast, wondering what they should do in this situation. The cat tells her to keep on running since they can only wait for reinforcements from the capital to arrive. After they find a hiding spot, the cat tells Spica to act as bait while it escapes the library. Spica refuses to get scammed again and prevents it from leaving her alone. The cat then tells her that if she wants to live, she should undo his curse to restore his magic powers. Even though Spica values her life, she doesn't want to kiss a human cat's waste disposal center. The cat reminds her that they'll both die if she keeps chickening out, and he leaves her, saying that her big words from earlier were all talk. Hearing this, Spica finally changes her mind, and she tries to chase after the cat. Suddenly, the Orthus appears behind her, and in an instant, all Spica can see is a wall of bright, hot flames blowing straight towards her. In her last moments, she regrets her decision to turn away the cat's help. However, just then, the cat appears in front of her and blocks the Orthus's attack with his magic power. To save her from the monster, it blows her away so she can escape from the library. Spica refuses to flee, realizing that after all her talk about protecting other people, she's relying on someone else to save her life again. This time, she knows she has a choice, so she turns around and charges straight into the hot flames. There, she finds the cat unconscious and picks him up to break its curse. After Spica injects the rebirth magic into the cat, he recovers from his injuries and transforms back into its human body. Once the human is back, he easily dispels the Orthus's flames and protects Spica in his arms. Up close, she realizes that the cat was actually her role model, Claude. Without any time to talk, Claude casts his grand magic called Icing Arrow, which turns the huge Orthus into a dog-flavored popsicle. After the dog is defeated, the remaining cultists flee from the library. Meanwhile, Spica feels shocked that the cat was all along, since he's a huge jerk in real life compared to the person she saw a few years ago. Claude reminds her that they only met for a few moments in the past, so she never got to see the real version of him. Spica realizes that despite his harsh words, he protected her from the Orthus just like back then. Claude himself starts walking away since Spica is now useless to him, but she pleads with him to teach her some magic. Suddenly, he transforms back into his cat form since Spica's rebirth magic has been used up. This time, Spica also starts walking away to spite the ungrateful cat. Claude gets mad at the Book of Providence since he was supposed to be fully cured. The book explains that since Spica is too weak, she can't permanently break Claude's curse until she reaches his level. To regain his freedom, Claude prepares to train her to become the world's 11th first-class magician. Spica feels like she's dreaming, but Claude reassures her that she can do it with his training. Finally, he declares that he'll resume his job at Diana Academy as her personal teacher and class professor. As Spica starts spending time with Claude, she even begins seeing him in her dreams. Unfortunately, instead of being her beloved Prince Charming, Dream Claude reminds her of her butt-kissing beauty. Shocked, she wakes up while the real Claude bangs against her window outside. In her terror, she mistakes him for Claude Sirius instead of Sirius. Before going out to train, once Spica is back to her senses, Claude asks her if she knows how magic works. She thinks that magic is related to a person's dreams and imagination, but Claude quickly shuts her down. He explains that magic is only determined by a person's natural affinity. This means that a person who is born without flying magic will never be able to take off no matter how much they practice, like Spica with her flying trials. Claude reveals that only people with the Sagittarius and Aries zodiac signs can use flying magic, so Spica wonders what she can do with her Virgo sign. She learns that Virgo is typically associated with fertility, so she can learn planting magic. Spica gets excited that she's not worthless after all, and wonders if her rebirth magic is also associated with her Virgo sign. However, Claude tells her that the rebirth magic is attribute-less, and she she should keep it a secret from everyone else. After his warning, he tells her to start practicing her planting magic on a sapling. As she points her wand at the sapling, Claude informs Spica that the wand is simply a release point for all the stored magic inside her body. Before releasing her magic with a chant, he instructs her to imagine the seedling growing into a large plant. Claude explains that the more vivid her image, the more effective her magic will be. Hearing this, Spica closes her eyes and casts a serious chant, which causes the tiny sapling to grow into a large plant. Shocked, Spica bursts out into excitement for her first ever successful magic spell. Unfortunately for her, Claude doesn't care for small starting steps since he wants her to reach the peak of magic. Spica feels upset that he's so heartless and decides that from now on, she'll stop idolizing Claude as a hero and focus her entire life on learning magic. Suddenly, Claude reminds her that she didn't stop the magic. Out of nowhere, the giant sapling grows to a massive size, catching Spica on one vine. Unfortunately, she completely fails to stop it and ends up looking like she got kidnapped by her own plant. Even Claude feels surprised since he has never seen someone so awful at controlling magic. After he helps untangle her, Spica starts panicking as she wonders how a talentless hack like her will pass Diana Academy's exam. Just then, her brother runs up and informs her that their mother got injured while working on their family farm. Spica rushes to check on her and finds out that she broke her leg. Her mom wonders if she can work on the farm while she's injured, but Spica reminds her that she needs time to prepare for her exam. Claude points out that she can use her magic to grow the plants instead, but Spica doesn't want to do it. He then reminds her that she's got no money to pay the school fees anyway, so she reluctantly agrees to do it. Claude finalizes her new training method and tells her to keep farming until it's time for her exam. Spica wonders if farming will really equip her with the knowledge and skills needed to pass the test, but she accepts his suggestion anyway. Then, she feels scared of making the trees grow out of control, but Claude is confident it won't happen again. As Spica casts the growth spell, one of the tree's branches viciously lashes out at her, but she stops it with her hand. Although Spica's mother is stunned, she herself is surprised that the branch didn't turn into something else. Claude explains that the limit of how much her target can grow depends on her imagination, so if she doesn't imagine it too big, it won't grow out of control. With his explanation, she feels confident that she can finally work on the farm without endangering anyone. From then on, Spica works on the farm for 6 months. She experiments with different ways to use her plant magic, like using it to shrink branches instead of manually pruning them. She also uses her magic for pest control and protection from the wind. Each day passes full of work until it's finally time for Spica to attempt Diana Academy's exam. Before leaving, she carries out one final task on the farm, and that's harvesting. After Spica collects all the enhanced, juicy oranges in just half a day, her mother congratulates her on becoming a full-fledged farmer. Then, Spica remembers that she chose magic for a career, so she wonders if her farming skills will even help her in the exam. She asks Claude, who tells her that Diana Academy's entrance exam changes every year, so it's based more on luck than pure skill. Hearing this, Spica drops the orange in her hand as anxiety takes over her thoughts. The next day, she goes to the city for her exam along with Aria. Aria simply laughs at Spica for thinking she can get in with just planting magic. Despite being nervous, Spica places her faith in her hard work and tells Aria she'll pass. Then, the two of them get on a carriage to leave for the Academy's testing venue. On the ride, Spica feels nervous, so Aria wonders what's wrong. She tells her that every applicant on the carriage feels like a challenger, so being around them gives her anxiety. Aria tells her that she considers herself number one, so she never feels nervous around other people. After some time, their carriage moves to a mountain path. Aria wonders why they're going off-roading since Diana Academy is in the capital city. While the students remain confused, a hooded figure stands close by. Suddenly, a rocky hill shatters near the carriage, turning into a massive stone golem. As the students watch in horror, the golem smashes its huge fist at their carriage. After the carriage gets destroyed, Claude pops out of Spica's bag to investigate the situation. Meanwhile, as the golem chases the defenseless students, Claude points out that golems are puppet creatures, so somebody is controlling it nearby. Spica wonders if the cultists are launching another attack against magic students, while Aria stands up against the massive enemy. Determined to protect everyone, she focuses uses all her power and launches a hydro cannon spell, which shatters the golem's humongous body. Even Claude is impressed by Aria's impressive skill and knowledge, but he watches as the golem's broken body easily reconstructs itself. Spica gets annoyed that the golem is cheating, but Claude reminds her that she read about its weakness in the library. She remembers that golems are created around a magic core, which can be destroyed to defeat the monster. As Spica watches the golem, she notes that the rocks are all gathering around a small core in the middle. On the core, she sees the word Emeth written, which is how the golem gets activated. If she can somehow erase the E from the beginning, the word would become ineffective and cause the golem to lose all its power. Spica rushes to tell Aria about this weakness, but Claude stops her. He tells her that she'll be the hero today and defeat the golem, but Spica doesn't think that a klutz like her can do it. However, Claude reminds her that her goal is to become a first-class magician, so if she can't even protect her friend from a tiny threat, she should just give up. Hearing this, Spica grows silent and realizes that the golem is about to hit Aria. She quickly jumps in and pulls her away with a vine, leaving Aria surprised. Finally, Spica resolves herself to fight for her friend, even as her legs shake from fear. She tells Aria about the golem's weakness and wonders if she can join her in the fight. Aria doesn't mind letting her fight, but she points out that Spica looks too terrified to fight. Still, Spica refuses to back down, declaring that she'll fight to protect her friends no matter how scared she feels. Hearing this, Aria wonders how they'll destroy the golem, so Spica tells her she'll break its core. She asks Aria to shatter the golem's body again with her hydro cannon, but Aria reveals that she doesn't have the energy to use that attack again. Then, the golem attacks the girls, who jump back to avoid it. It then shifts its focus towards the other students and raises its fist high to smash down on a scared boy. As the boy screams for help, Spica rushes towards the golem and throws out some seeds. She then uses her growth magic and binds the golems using strong vines, watching her restrain the giant monster. Aria feels stunned since she didn't think farming magic could be so strong. Meanwhile, Claude thinks that Spica is underestimating her own abilities. Having watched her work on the farm, he knows that she has trained her stamina and magic control to a great level, while mastering the only spell she knows how to cast. Nearby, Spica taunts the golem to attack her instead, so Aria gets mad that her klutz friend is actually getting the spotlight. Suddenly, the golem breaks its own body to free itself from the vines. This gives Spica the chance to destroy its core, so she gets ready to attack. However, the golem launches its own shattered body towards her at a blinding speed, leaving no time for her to attack. Spica barely defends herself with a wall of vines, but she wonders how to get out of the golem's vicious assault. Just when things look hopeless for her, Aria steps in and creates a water barrier around her. She reminds Spica that she isn't fighting alone and tells her to go ahead and finish the job. With her friend's protection, Spica can concentrate all her magic on attacking instead. This time, she targets the golem's core directly and slashes away the E letter with a strong vine. Finally, the massive monster crumbles to dust, and the students celebrate this life-saving victory. While Spica heaves a sigh of relief, Aria wonders how she became so strong. Spica tells her that she just got lucky, but suddenly, a strange man tells her that luck can never go so far. Out of nowhere, a bunch of magicians appear in front of the students. Spica wonders how the strange old man knows her name, but Claude explains that he's the Diana Academy vice principal. The vice principal, called Justice, apologizes to all the students for the confusion. He points the students towards a healer and explains that the golem attack was just a surprise exam for them. The students get angry at him for not informing them earlier, since they would have joined the fight otherwise. However, Justice points out that he wanted to test their reactions in a real life or death situation. Despite being reckless, he praises Aria for standing up against the golem before anyone else. He also praises Spica for saving her friend and other students despite being so scared herself. While the other students ran away or tried to save their own lives, these two girls stood up for everyone else. Justice explains that Diana Academy searches for people with good hearts alongside magic talents, so these two girls are the perfect fit for their academy. He declares Spica and Aria as passed and encourages the other students to try again next time. Despite passing the exam, Aria feels unsatisfied since she didn't perform as well as she could have. Meanwhile, Spica feels so happy that she thinks she's dreaming. Claude reminds her that this is just the beginning, which ruins her cheerful mood again. However, he also praises her for standing firm and fighting doing well. This simple praise leaves Spica completely flustered, and she wonders why the smallest compliment from Claude can make her feel so good. Even though he acts mean at times, Spica knows that Claude's tips helped her defeat the golem, so she thinks that her master is truly a good person on the inside. A few days later, Spica visits the Witch's Hat World Tree, a 1,000-year-old tourist spot. She enters a tunnel inside the tree's body, which leads her to the magical entrance of the legendary Diana Academy. Being established by the legendary witch Selene, the academy offers Spica an incredible sight with its intricate, massive buildings. After she enters the main hall, she skips around in joy, still feeling like she's dreaming. While Spica is basking in luxury, Claude appears out of nowhere. He points out that she's acting like a country bumpkin in a fancy restaurant and warns her not to expose her identity as his student. Spica agrees to remain silent, and she wonders if he also wants to keep his cat form a secret. Claude nods, feeling embarrassed that he literally makes her kiss his butt just so he can keep his job. He apologizes for making her uncomfortable, but reminds her that she's helping both of them reach their goal. As Claude reaches out a hand to seal their partnership, Spica feels like he's scamming her with his charm. Then, he tells Spica that he'll talk to the principal about her coven. The poor girl has no idea what a coven is since she comes from a normal school. But before Claude can explain further, Principal Jean calls out to him. While Spica is shocked that their principal is so young, Jean ignores her and tells Claude that he's become quite the hot topic. She reveals that everyone is making bad rumors about Claude's character, but he acts completely unfazed. Then, Jean explains that the students don't know about his return, so she wants him to wait in her office until the covens are announced. Claude tells her that he needs to discuss the covens with her anyway, which surprises Jean. Then, he walks away with her while leaving Spica behind. As the two of them walk, Jean taunts Claude for disappearing on her for 2 whole years. Spica then learns that Claude is actually Jean's apprentice, and both of them have quite a rocky relationship. After the two of them leave, Spica remembers that she still doesn't know what a coven is. Suddenly, she hears a girl screaming for help nearby. To her shock, Spica finds a large girl completely stuck in a wall. The girl tells her that she somehow fell into the wall and broke it, but her large body got stuck inside. After a ton of effort, Spica barely manages to pull her out of the hole. To her shock, the girl completely mogs her. The rescued girl thanks Spica and introduces herself as Io. Io explains that she's a new student just like her. So Spica gets embarrassed about her own stunted growth. Io then hopes that they get into the same coven, so Spica shyly asks her what it means. Io explains that a coven is a group of 12 students who study under the same teacher for 3 years while sharing their meals and rooms. Finally, Spica realizes that Claude wanted to speak with Jean so he could get her into his own coven. While Spica hopes her coven has good people, Io feels optimistic that they'll get good company since the Diana Academy is filled with educated people. Then, the two girls start walking to check out the coven announcements. Suddenly, Spica bumps into a scary-looking boy called Libra, who instantly turns into a flowery playboy after seeing her. As the boy flirts with her, Spica wonders if she's really that beautiful, but then he shifts his attention to Io. After delivering some corny pickup lines, Libra leaves the two girls. Io quietly tells Spica that Libra is actually the vice principal's son, which shocks her. Spica then spots Libra trying to harass a poor girl. She wonders if they should help her, but Io reassures her that the girl will be okay. Somehow, the girl yanks her hand away from Libra and knocks him out with a single punch. At that moment, Spica finally realizes that it was actually a boy called Castor. Surprisingly, Libra doesn't mind getting punched in the face. He apologizes to Castor for accidentally harassing him, but the fiery boy refuses to forgive him so easily. Libra wonders if he bruised his ego by misgendering him, but Castor reveals he's simply offended that he touched him with his filthy hands. As both boys prepare for a fight, another voice rings out of nowhere to stop them. A muscular girl called Regulus jumps down from a chandelier to interrupt the two. The boys wonder what she was doing so high up, so she simply explains she wanted to make a grand entrance. Despite Regulus's interference, neither boy tries to give up their fight. In front of a confused audience, their fight turns into a 3-way, while Spica starts panicking at the thought of living with these freaks for a full 3 years. Suddenly, Libra casts magic spell called called Eye of Themis, which allows him to dodge every single one of Castor's punches. In response, Castor uses a Gemini clone spell called Mirror Augment to make dodging even more difficult for him. Nearby, Regulus feels left out, so she uses her Leo magic to turn into a Lion Queen. After Regulus absolutely destroys Castor's clone, the poor boy shakes in fear while Libra declines her offer for a spar. From the rampant fighting, a stray rock hits Spica's head. Io feels worried, but Spica reassures her she's okay. However, Io gets infuriated that the three brutes injured her precious savior. She uses her Taurus magic called Gugulana, which transforms her body to a massive size. Unfortunately, Io doesn't get to show off too much since the giant form exposes her body in front of everyone. Embarrassed, she tries to cover herself, but she ends up slipping and falling straight towards the small Spica. Luckily, Claude intervenes before the ground can receive a Spica-shaped pancake. Spica is relieved to see her master, but both Castor and Libra get angry. Claude launches them into the air to calm them down, before announcing that all 5 students present in the hall are included in his coven. Hearing this, Spica feels like he just delivered her death sentence, and she prepares herself for the worst living nightmare of her entire life. While Spica panics, Claude recalls his earlier conversation with Jean. As his master, she made an exception and allowed him to teach again with Spica in his coven. However, she warned him that the public won't accept her decision because they all think he's a cowardly traitor who abandoned them. In order to dispel all the bad rumors about him, she designed a test to prove Claude's ability in public. Jean explained that she had assigned him 12 of the strongest students for his coven, but he would need to deal with their difficult personalities if he wanted them to succeed. As a condition to continue teaching, Claude would need to ensure that every single difficult student graduated from their class successfully. Happy to oblige, Claude finds himself in his new classroom, but at the worst moment possible. His rebirth magic runs out, and he turns back into a cat. While all the students feel surprised, Claude sheepishly tells Spica that he used up all his magic preventing Io from squashing her. He then politely asks her to cure his curse again, but Spica runs away screaming, and Claude's first ever class is cancelled. The next morning, Io wakes up Spica and starts carrying her entire bed to class. Thankfully, she turns back to normal after Spica tells her to put her down. While the rest of the girls have breakfast, Spica sneaks away to deal with Claude's vitamin S deficiency. As she knocks on his door, Claude scolds her for being late. Spica goes in and complains about kissing his butt every day, which, unfortunately, the poor dorm mother hears from outside his door. While the old woman thinks there's a scandal going on, Claude notes that he always transforms into a cat after using his serious magic or when the next day begins. Since Spica can only use her magic on him once per day, it has put a severe limit on how much magic he can use. To combat this, he needs her to become a first-class magician as soon as possible. Spica wonders what she needs to do to achieve that, so Claude explains she needs to qualify for first class in the top royal exam. However, even in the prestigious Diana Academy, only one person has recently qualified as a first-class magician. Spica wonders which genius person this could be, so Claude nonchalantly reminds her that he's the one, feeling upset that she complimented her arrogant teacher without knowing. Spica gets embarrassed. Then, Claude also warns her that if she remains in the bottom 10% of her class, she'll get expelled by the end of the year. After dropping this bomb on her, Claude leaves his room. He greets the dorm mother on his way, who feels disgusted thinking about the scandalous things he was doing with a student. Meanwhile, Spica feels confident that even an idiot like her won't get expelled from the school. Afterward, she heads to her first class, where the professor talks about some complicated mumbo-jumbo she can't understand. Spica notices that the girl next to her, called Yu, has fallen asleep, so she tries to wake her up before the teacher can notice. Unfortunately, the teacher gets mad at her instead for talking during class, and asks her to explain what he was teaching. Spica has no idea what he just taught, but Yu suddenly wakes up and gives him a perfect explanation. Suddenly, the professor's attitude takes a full 180, and Yu goes back to sleep like it was nothing. Finally, Spica wonders if she just doesn't have the brains for this magic stuff. Afterward, it's time for her to take Claude's practical class. He shows his students an animal called a lawthorn, which is pretty hard to catch for normal people. Naturally, Claude expects all his students to easily catch them, and warns them all not to fail in his task. While Spica feels the pressure, Aria wonders if she can even catch a single rabbit. Spica thinks she can easily catch the rabbits just like she caught the golem, but the tiny bunnies are too fast for her vines. As Claude watches the students struggle with the rabbits, he notes that the bunnies are very sensitive to magic and can easily avoid it. One of the students uses her paralysis magic, which knocks out the poor things for her. Unfortunately, her magic also causes some collateral damage and ends up wasting time for Spica and Io, who are left unconscious as well. Meanwhile, another student uses his cancer magic to create an earth wall, which traps some rabbits with him. While Spica panics to create a strategy, a rabbit charges at her out of nowhere and knocks her out. After she wakes up, it's already too late since the time for the challenge has run out. In the end, Aria wins the competition with 10 rabbits, while Spica takes the shameful bottom with 0. Even Claude is surprised by her pathetic incompetence and tells her to straighten up. He reminds her that she'll get expelled if she continues to fail like this, but Claude's words really ruin Spica's confidence. She gives him a quiet nod, which leaves him confused. Later at night, Claude calls Spica to have a makeup lesson with him to help her improve. As Spica stands in front of their training room, she wonders if she'll ever be able to achieve anything with her horrible talent. She opens the door and steps into the observatory, where Claude uses his magic to simulate the feeling of being in space. While Spica is delighted by all the pretty stars, Claude points her to the bright blue Spica star. He explains that the Spica star is actually made of 2 stars that are revolving too far for the naked eye to see. Then, he also reveals that a single Spica star shines 20,000 times brighter than the sun. Spica wonders why Claude is giving her an astronomy lesson, and then she realizes that he's trying to cheer her up with her namesake star. Hearing this, Claude's ear gets red from embarrassment, and he denies any such intentions. However, Spica figures out his true feelings, and she starts laughing at his attempt to cheer her up. She finally feels better after her teacher's kind gesture, and thinks that even a talentless hack like her can become a first-class magician under Claude's guidance. After Spica feels better, Claude reminds her that she still needs to catch 12 rabbits before she can return to her room. After 1 week of classes, Jean calls Claude to her office to have a review. Claude acts like everything has been going great, but she points out that Yu has slept through every single class, while Regulus has been hogging the podium for herself. Jean also points out that many of Claude's other students have been causing problems in private, even if they've been well behaved in class. Finally, she reminds him that Castor Gemini is his biggest problem. Although Castor has always been a problematic kid, he has not yet attended a single one of Claude's classes. Jean reminds him that if Castor fails by the end of the year, Claude will get kicked out based on their deal. Although Claude tries to make excuses, Jean remains firm and delivers this final warning to him. Afterward, he tells Spica about his predicament, deciding to drag Castor into his class no matter what. Claude wonders why Castor is skipping classes in the first place, so he recalls that the boy has always been strangely angry with him. Unfortunately, Claude doesn't actually know why Castor hates him so much. However, Spica points out that Claude is so arrogant, it's a miracle he's even allowed to teach in the school, much less be liked by anyone. Hearing this, he decides to play nice to hopefully make Castor forgive him. At this moment, Io bumps into these two. She wonders what they're doing together, while Claude asks her if she knows about Castor's whereabouts. Io thinks about it and concentrates with her ear, then points out a direction where she can hear some fighting. Spica is surprised that she has a built-in Castor detector, and Claude goes in the direction to find his target student. However, when they actually get there, they find Castor knocking out some random student. Claude is shocked that he went so far, but Castor explains that the boy tried to grope him. Claude understands that Castor was simply defending himself, but he still warns him to stop picking fights with everyone, or else he'd get expelled. However, Castor simply challenges him to get him expelled. Claude says he would never betray his student like that. Then, he kindly asks Castor if he'd like to come to class. Spica thinks Claude's got it in the bag, but then Castor agrees to take his classes as long as Claude leaves the academy. Hearing this, Claude gets pissed off, but he manages to control his temper for the sake of his job. Spica tries to step in, but Io is a step ahead of her. She begs Castor to take his class and threatens to drag him inside if he refuses. As Castor continues to argue, Io wonders why he's so rude now, even though he used to be kind. Enraged, Castor tells her that his nice personality is just a thing of the past. Eventually, Io manages to convince Castor to show up. Unfortunately, it's only because she nagged him enough to give him an aneurysm. As all the students gather in one place, Claude explains that it's their mission to gather as many mandrakes as possible for their lesson. He tells them the general locations of the mandrakes and splits them into groups, but warns them all not to cross the forest's forbidden zones. Soon, Castor gets paired up with Spica and Io, but he refuses to do any work at all. Watching him sulk against a tree, Io simply pulls it out of the ground to make him move. Spica notes that Castor is rather kind to Io, and she recalls that they've been friends since middle school. Then, she gets some dirt on her skirt while searching for herbs, so Castor gives her his handkerchief to clean it up. Spica appreciates his help and compliments his cute handkerchief, but Castor gets offended that she pointed out his feminine taste. Then, Claude walks over to check on how the group is doing. He tells the students to ask him for anything if they need help, but Castor gets mad. He thinks that Claude is simply trying to kiss up to him to get a better reputation as a teacher, and reminds him that he'll never attend another one of his classes. Claude gets serious and warns him to stop acting so cocky, while Spica reminds him that he needs to play nice. However, he's done with being Castor's babysitter and gets ready to set things straight with him. Finally, Claude asks Castor why he dislikes him, so Castor feels disgusted that he doesn't even remember. He starts to leave, but Claude stops him and forces him to spill the beans. Castor then spits out that Claude ran away and abandoned his students on the day the cultists attacked their academy. Hearing this, Claude grows silent and prepares to explain. Suddenly, Io's voice distracts him as she finds the mandrake they were looking for. However, as she tries to get the herb, she slips and falls towards a flowing river. Before anyone can react, Castor jumps out to help Io, but she uses her Taurus magic to enlarge her body and stay out. Unfortunately, this causes Castor to slip and fall into the river. As the river pulls him away, Io holds out a finger to help him, but Castor can only grab the tip before the water washes him away. Inside the water, his body starts glowing for some reason, until he washes up on the shore downstream. In Castor's place, a girl stands wearing his wet uniform. As she takes off the wet clothes, Claude and the others arrive just in time to see her. Seeing the girl's face, Claude finally remembers her from the cultist attack. Spica wonders if all Geminis can turn into the other gender, but the girl teases Claude for staring at her. However, Claude turns around and firmly tells her that he would never do something so inappropriate with a student. Spica wonders if the girl really is Castor, but Io tells her that she's actually called Pollux. It turns out that Pollux is actually Castor's twin sister, but only one of the twins can control their body at a time. When they get touched by a man, the male twin comes out, but when Castor grabbed Io's finger, he turned back into Pollux. After explaining this, Pollux says hi to Io since the two friends haven't seen each other in a while. Then, Pollux starts showing off her Gemini magic to Spica. She uses her wand to duplicate her uniform and wears one for herself. Spica gets embarrassed by Pollux's shameless movements, so she tries to make Claude look away. Once Pollux is done with her magic, she explains that she can replicate any object with her magic as long as she can scan it. Claude reminds her that she still needs to help her group members find a mandrake for their assignment. All of a sudden, she summons a clone, which gives her a bottle containing the very mandrake they were looking for. Claude gets surprised, since he was hiding the bottle in his pocket, while Pollux is happy that she made him lose his composure. He finally realizes that when Spica distracted him, trying to cover his eyes, her clone snuck in and stole the bottle from his clothes. In reality, Pollux had used light magic to make it look like she only copied Spica's uniform, while she had actually made a fully functional clone. Pollux admits that Claude got it right, and Spica is impressed that she managed to fool her confident teacher. Pollux then wonders if she can go home, but Claude asks her to hand the bottle over. She refuses and challenges him to take it by force, but he reminds her that he can't take action against her as a teacher. Hearing this, Pollux thinks that Claude is a nice person, but all of a sudden, her tone changes. She claims that despite acting all nice, he would never hesitate to abandon his students when they truly need him. Claude notes that despite her friendly acting, Pollux hates him just as much as Castor. Spica wonders why both siblings are accusing him of abandoning them, and wonders if the rumors about Claude really are true. Io and Spica try to change the topic by asking Pollux to return with them, but she gets mad that they're taking Claude's side. Pollux warns everyone to stop bothering her and Castor before teleporting away from them. After she's gone, Spica asks Claude if he really did did abandon his students during the cultists' attack. Claude explains that at that time, Pollux was simply a middle school student. Despite being in a different coven, she used to like him quite a lot. Unfortunately, Claude admits that he left his students during the cult's attack, despite them begging him to protect them. Spica wonders why he did so, but Claude tells her that he can't explain the reason yet. He turns around to go find Pollux, warning the two girls not to leave their spots. Spica feels sad that the awful rumor was true about her teacher, but before she can think about it, Io gasps in shock. She points to the forbidden zone behind them, where a faint shadow appears to be hanging from a tree. Both Spica and Io feel hesitant to enter the forbidden zone, but when they realize their friend might be in danger, they rush in to help them. As they rush in, though, both girls get trapped by a sticky web on the ground. Now closer to the shadow, they realize it's simply a puppet made out of wood. Nearby, Pollux is unharmed, so she checks in on the girls. After taking a look at the hanging puppet, she figures that it's a lure used by some kind of monster to bait them. She tells the girls to escape, but it's already too late. Suddenly, a giant stick insect jumps down from above the puppet, but Pollux barely avoids it. Spica and Io tell her to go call Claude, but Pollux wonders how they'll protect themselves. Spica reassures her that she and Io can handle the monster on her own, but Pollux refuses to leave them alone. Then, she points to the bug and uses her light magic, which easily destroys it. After defeating the monster, Pollux turns around all smug, acting like there's no need to call for a trusted adult like Claude. As she helps both Spica and Io escape the web, Spica asks if Castor can use the same magic as her. However, Pollux reveals that Castor is actually horrible at magic. Still, she feels glad that she can remain with her brother using their unique twin magic. All of a sudden, Io calls out to the girls in as another stick bug tries to eat her head around Spica and Pollux. A bunch more insects show up. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the forest, Claude also finds himself surrounded. However, he notices the blasts of Pollux's light magic in the distance, so he decides to quickly finish off the bugs and rescue her. Back in the Forbidden Zone, the three girls desperately take out bug after bug, but more reinforcements keep showing up. Exhausted, Io collapses to the ground, so Pollux tries to help her. Out of nowhere, a bug monster grabs her, but luckily, it was just a clone. The real Pollux jumps behind the insect and kills it, thinking about the time she was abandoned by her teacher. Back then, Pollux made a promise to her brother that she'd get stronger and protect everyone on her own. She continues to defeat insect after insect, but even Castor warns her to run away since her magic is running low. Pollux refuses to leave her friends so vulnerable, so Castor grows quiet. However, she soon runs out of magic just as expected, leaving her completely exposed to the monstrous insect. Just as one of the bugs raises its pincers to kill her, something else pushes it back. Claude appears just in time to save the day, leaving Pollux completely shocked. Despite her objections, he promises to protect her from now on. Spica and Io ask Claude where the bugs came from, so he explains that these luring insects sometimes attack humans in large groups. Nearby, a giant army of insects rises into the air after detecting Claude's magic. While Spica and Io start panicking, Claude reassures them that he'll take out every single bug. Then he summons his Sagittarius magic, a Nemo arrow rain, which creates a giant volley of arrows that pierces every single insect as if it were made of paper. Watching the brilliant lights take out the insects like a fireworks show, Pollux remembers the first time she saw Claude use this spell. It was back when she first got admitted into Diana Academy, and ever since then, she had fallen for Claude's incredible power. After the insects are all gone, Claude stealthily reminds Spica to handle things after he turns back into a cat. Then, he apologizes to Pollux for leaving her and her brother alone during the attack. Claude doesn't make any excuses, and instead, he simply asks her to give him another chance. After saying this, he leaves in a hurry before the cat magic can expose him. Once he's gone, Spica tells Pollux that Claude left her alone that day for a good reason, but he can't explain it yet. Pollux wonders why, so Spica tells her that she doesn't know either. Pollux knows that Claude rushed over just for her sake, and he did protect her from the dangerous insects. However, she can't forgive him so easily for what he did on the day of the attack. back. As Cat Claude feels disappointed, Pollux suddenly says that she's interested in finding out what kind of person he really is, so she decides to attend his classes from then on. While Cat Claude feels happy that he got her trust, he wonders why the insects appeared in the forest since those bugs aren't native to the Academy's grounds. Nearby, a group of cultists notices that Claude eliminated all their pawns. One of them wonders if they should eliminate him, but their leader reminds him that their target isn't Claude himself, but his student, Spica, who has the rebirth magic. A few days later, Claude gathers all his students in a kitchen to cook their magic herbs to increase their power. Inside the kitchen, Spica feels happy that Castor is finally attending his classes. Nearby, Libra harasses Castor, trying to transform him into his sister. Castor asks for permission to eliminate his classmate, but Claude tells him to do it off school grounds. Meanwhile, Regulus brings over an entire boar to cook with the herbs, which Claude also refuses. Watching all the weirdo students cause chaos in their own way, Spica realizes that it'll take a while for Claude to get them all under control. She asks Claude if they can have a hot pot party anyway, which angers him even more. Then, Spica notices Aria staring at her. As she asks her what's wrong, Aria turns away, which leaves Spica even more confused. Afterward, Spica returns to her special training with Claude. Unfortunately, despite so many lessons, she's still unable to catch even a single lawform rabbit. Spica thinks that her Virgo magic just isn't suitable for catching rabbits, wishing that she had Aria's amazing water magic instead. However, Claude tells her that it's not the magic, but the user, who can make their spells shine. He explains that even if a magician is limited by what their spell can do, they try to find unique ways of applying it to solve their problems. Although Spica understands the wisdom behind his teaching, she doesn't know how to innovate on her planting magic to catch rabbits. Claude suggests asking Aria for advice since she's very fluid with her water magic. Unfortunately, Spica would rather eat dirt than ask her arrogant friend for help. Claude thinks it shouldn't be too hard since they're friends, but Spica firmly tells him that they're enemies. She reminds him of all the times Aria has humiliated her, trying to make her look bad in every competition they have ever had. And since Aria is more talented than her, Spica simply feels bad trying to talk to her. Still, Claude tells her to get over her pride and ask Aria for help. His reasonable words make Spica realize that she needs all the help she can get to catch up to her strong classmates. Moments later, Spica swallows her pride and asks Aria for help, who simply smirks and starts teasing her. Spica immediately turns around and leaves, but Aria actually agrees to help her. While Spica is surprised, Aria says that she is willing to help her, but only if Spica gives her sad puppy eyes and begs for it. Even though the action is embarrassing, Spica decides to accept her challenge and ends up begging cutely for help. Spica's determination shocks even Aria, who has no choice but to help her afterward. Before they start training, she takes Spica to a bath with her. She wonders if the bath helps with magic, but Aria explains that she just wanted to relax first. Then, she tells Spica that there's no easy trick to mastering magic. Aria reveals that her Aquarius magic allows her to shape water into whatever she wants, so she uses her imagination to make creative solutions with it. Then, Aria also explains how she practices her water magic. She tells Spica that in order to mold her water into different forms, she needs to carefully observe the objects she wants countless times and memorize their internal structure. Only then can she freely manipulate her water mana to take that object's form. Hearing this, Spica is stunned since she has always thought that Aria was a natural, without thinking she would ever need to work hard. Aria's advice gives Spica some new ideas, so she thanks her for the help and begins leaving the bath. Aria curiously wonders why Spica's trying so hard, so she tells her that she's trying to improve her abilities to perform in class tests. Instead of giving Spica credit for working hard, Aria simply thinks she's trying to impress her crush, Claude. Then, she suddenly challenges Spica to have a rabbit catching match once she's done with her special training. However, she warns her that the loser will have to be the winner's maid for a full day. Although Spica hates the punishment, she still accepts the challenge as motivation to improve herself. Watching her leave the bath, Aria thinks back to their time together in school. Ever since Spica started training with Claude, she started to hang out less with Aria, leaving her bored and lonely. Now, she feels a bit happy that Spica will hang out with her. For the next few days, Spica tries out some new experiments to modify her magic. After a ton of hard work, it's time for her to show what she's got in the match against Aria. Both girls gather near the forest, competing to see who can catch the most lawthorns in 1 hour. The first to go is Aria, who uses her Aquarius magic to create a giant glove. This glove easily catches up to the running rabbits and catches 5 in one go. Watching Aria's abilities, even Claude is impressed by her genius innovations. Meanwhile, Aria refuses to back down despite the pressure. She reveals her own masterful invention, a human catapult which is supposed to hurl her to the rabbits. Aria explains that since the rabbits are sensitive to magic, she'll just physically yeet herself into their face to catch them. She puts this theory to the test by launching herself with the catapult. Although the impact of Spica hitting the ground creates a huge smoke cloud, she emerges victorious with a rabbit in her hands. Aria laughs at her for creating such a mess for just a single rabbit, but Aria reminds her to focus on the match instead of gloating. Then, the two girls go on catching more rabbits until the time is up. In the end, Aria catches 20 rabbits compared to Spica's 10. Since her catapult method couldn't match her speed, although Spica is disappointed by her loss, Claude is satisfied with her improvement, while Aria is happy that they got to play together. Then, she holds out a hand to help her up and asks her to play again sometime. Unfortunately, Aria doesn't forget about the loser's punishment, so Spica ends up as her maid for a full day. A few days later, Claude gets stuck in an impossible situation with all his students chasing his cat form. It turns out that just the day before, he asked Spica for her help with choosing a student leader. Spica offered to be the class representative herself, but Claude rejected her since he didn't think she was mature enough. Claude reminded her that one time, a teacher picked a class rep without giving it much thought. As a result, the entire coven went into chaos. Since Claude's coven was already full of special characters, he needed someone extra responsible to handle them all. Unfortunately, he didn't know any of his students that well, so he asked Spica to investigate their personalities for him. However, Spica didn't know any of them very well either. She asked Claude to just observe all the students for a day, but he felt too lazy to do it on his own. Although Spica was annoyed by Claude's laziness, she still agreed to help him. Unfortunately, in the present day, Claude is left all alone as Spica snores away in her room. Stuck in his cat form, he goes out of his room to search for Spica himself. Unfortunately, Claude bumps into a student called Mero instead. She falls in love with the cute cat and picks him up, then takes him into his room against his consent. There, she dresses him up in cute frilly clothes until Claude has had enough and escapes the room. While escaping from Mero, Claude realizes that he can easily observe the students in their natural habitat while being in his cat form. Next, he encounters a student called Chiron, and Claude stops by to watch him. Unfortunately, Chiron hates the stray cat, so Claude gets mad and attacks him instead. Luckily, Tarf catches Claude and calms him down. After receiving some nice petting, Claude forgives Chiron's mistake. Then, Tarf wonders if the cat attacked out of hunger, so Chiron offers his lunch to Claude. Naturally, Claude greedily accepts the juicy steak in front of him, realizing that Chiron has a generous nature since he's a noble prince. However, the prince soon gives him a horrible nickname, so Claude decides he's not worthy of being a leader after all. After that, he tries to get inside Spica's room, but he gets the wrong number and gets the creepy necromancer Hana instead. Hana drags Claude inside her room without a single word, where he gets terrified of all her macabre tools and inventions. Hana tells him that she needs a cat's claws for her potion research, so she gets ready to clip his nails. Much like a real cat, Claude hates getting groomed, so he runs away from her grasp. Unfortunately, he bumps into one of her potion bottles, which spills all over him. Claude wonders what the potion will do to him, but Hana grabs him and refuses to let go. She explains that the bottle contained a pheromone potion which would boost Claude's attractiveness to any person who sees him. Hearing this, Claude gets scandalized by his student's inappropriate invention. Influenced by the pheromones, Hana tries to kiss him, but he struggles out of her arms and runs away. Unfortunately, this creates an even bigger problem for Claude as he runs into other students. All of them catch a whiff of his delicious pheromones, so Claude runs for his life while everyone chases after him. After getting out of a corner, he escapes into the halls again before running into a girl called Capella. Claude wonders if Capella wants to violate him like everyone else, but for some reason, she doesn't fall for him immediately. Capella actually stands in front of him and tells the other students to back off, knowing that they're making the animal feel uncomfortable. She then notices the pheromone scent. Thankfully, Capella has the sense to pinch her nose to avoid getting charmed. She realizes why the students are chasing Claude Claude and summons her Capricorn magic. Finally, Claude thinks he can get saved since Capricorn magic can absorb other magic from the air. Using her powers, Capella drains away the pheromones around Claude's body, which finally snaps everyone out of their daze. She then kneels down and comforts Claude, who decides that she's the best candidate for student leader. The next day, Claude visits Capella and asks her to become class rep. She wonders why he wants her, so he explains that she's a mature and responsible individual. Hearing this, Capella gets mad and starts breaking windows since she's a complete tsundere who likes to act like a bad girl. Still, she eventually agrees to become the leader since she's a good girl after all. A few weeks later, Claude gathers his students outside to make them demonstrate their abilities. Aria uses her water magic to create a giant water sphere in the sky, while Mero works with her and uses her Pisces magic to summon all kinds of marine creatures. Together, they create a beautiful aquarium made with pure magic. After their demonstration, Claude tells the other students to form pairs and make their own displays. Spica immediately panics since she doesn't know anyone who'd pair with her. After looking around, she asks Hana, who coldly rejects her. Spica wonders if she did something wrong, but Hana leaves without an explanation. Then, Claude reminds all his students that they have midterms the very next day. He explains that they'll all need to make it through a dungeon with their magic, so he warns them all to be prepared and well rested. Afterward, Claude tells Spica that they won't have any special training for the day. He tells her to take a good rest and wishes her good luck, which gives her the motivation to prove her abilities. However, Claude acts like he's skeptical of her talents, reminding her that she failed to even pick out a leader with him. He complains about the dresses Mero made him wear and how Hana tried to kiss him, but Spica's head goes straight into the gutter without realizing Claude was in his cat form. She wonders if he did some scandalous things behind her back. This causes Spica to remain restless all day. Meanwhile, Hana makes a call to her mother, informing her that she'll do her best to come out at the top of her grade. The next day, all the students board a flight to their exam dungeon, but Spica looks like a zombie since she couldn't sleep at all. Unfortunately, sleep deprivation is the least of her concerns, since a griffin monster roars loudly right next to the students' airship. Spica takes a peek from the window and sees an entire army of griffins flying around their airspace. She feels shocked by all the strange monsters, but when she sees the massive griffin nest nearby, she realizes that her exam is going to be anything but fun. Once everyone gets close to the nest, the ship lets them off. Claude explains that griffins are monsters that build nests with huge colonies and hoard their stolen gold inside. Since griffins are usually hostile to humans, they are considered pest animals. Then, Claude reveals that everyone is required to enter the massive nest and bring back some griffin gold for their exam. All of the students are shocked, since the mission sounds incredibly dangerous. Naturally, Claude knows this, so he explains that the school has given everyone a bracelet of Hermes to tackle the danger. If a student feels like they're in a dangerous situation, they can activate the bracelet, which contains teleportation magic. Although the magic will teleport the student to safety, they will be disqualified by using it. Claude also reveals that the bracelet can activate automatically if it detects that a student's life is in danger. Claude knows that griffins are much stronger than the golems from the entrance exam, but he encourages his students to tackle the new challenge and soar to greater heights. Regulus and Aria are the first to go, rushing towards the nest to get the best score. Behind them, Chiron and Tarf follow behind them, and Capella literally drags you to team up with her. Meanwhile, Spica feels terrified, but she tries to rush in as well, hoping to perform well. Unfortunately, while crossing a bridge to the massive nest, she gets scared by a griffin and drops her wand, as Spica is completely helpless. The griffin roars and attacks her. Thankfully, Hana steps in and defeats the monster with her poison magic. Spica wonders if she was trying to help her, but Hana acts like she just took out the monster because it was in her way. Then, she tells Spica to just give up if she has already dropped her wand before entering the nest. Spica is offended by her rude comment, but she doesn't take it to heart. Back outside the nest, the teachers gather to discuss the exam. Claude greets the vice principal, who notes that many students from the other covens have already given up without even entering the nest. Still, Claude notes that aside from the early quitters, all the other students have successfully entered the nest. Now, he wonders if the other students can succeed in exploring the dungeon and understanding the true purpose of their exam. Inside one of the entrances, a bunch of students run around, terrified of a griffin hatchling chasing them around. All of a sudden, the baby griffin stops moving as Regulus lifts it overhead with her gorilla magic. She throws the griffin into a wall and tells the others to follow her, but the poor kids are too busy being crushed under the monster's weight. Outside, the teachers watch Regulus's performance through a magic mirror. All of them praise her incredible strength, noting that most of Claude's students are performing much better than the others. Even Claude feels a little smug about his students as a teacher points out that Regulus is in the lead, along with Persephone, who is a student from the Pegasus Coven. Another teacher thinks that the Aquarius Coven has a chance to perform well, but their students have yet to catch up. Claude remains silent, hoping that his kids can perform well and change their reputation of being the misfits. Then, he breaks into a cold sweat as he realizes that Spica still hasn't made it inside the nest. Outside the nest, Hana complains that Spica is moving too slowly, but Spica reminds her that she broke their bridge by letting a griffin drop on top of it. Once they finally get inside, Hana thinks about catching up quickly. On the other hand, Spica wanders around, feeling excited to see all the strange sights inside the dungeon. This pisses off Hana, who reminds her that they're here for an exam instead of sightseeing. Spica gets annoyed, but instead of admitting her own irresponsible behavior, she thinks that Hana is just trying to perform well to get into Claude's good books. This gives her the motivation to perform better than Hana, so she runs ahead of her. However, she runs into a griffin hatchling, which shoots her to the ground. Hana senses that they've entered the hatchling part of the nest, so she thinks it's wise to go deeper into the nest before the other babies discover them. Spica offers to team up to defeat the hatchling, but Hana looks down on her, thinking her plant-growing magic is completely useless. Offended, Spica decides to prove that her magic isn't useless for combat. She uses a plant spell to create a wooden trap around the hatchling, leaving it immobilized. While Spica feels smug about her performance, Hana wonders if she also meant to trap her. This brings Spica's inflated ego back to earth, and she admits that she still can't perfectly control her magic. Afterward, they both continue deeper into the dungeon while bickering together. Suddenly, their surroundings shift from straw into stone, so Spica wonders if they've entered a new area. Hana thinks that the rooms must change based on their purpose. Noting that this room looks like it was built by a different species, she explains that some weaker animals who require protection make their nests to live with the griffins. Spica is impressed by Hana's knowledge, who realizes that she's supposed to be moving forward instead of giving lectures. Spica then hears a shout from deeper in the cave, so she rushes to catch up with the other students. Inside, she finds a lizard monster colony terrorizing some students from another coven. Spica wonders how to deal with the lizards, but Hana calmly advances forward while using a poison barrier around her body. For some reason, all of the lizards avoid her and let her proceed. Spica is shocked, but Hana points out that these weak lizards need the griffin's protection, so there's no way they'd risk fighting someone poisonous. This impresses Spica even more as she wonders how Hana can be so calm surrounded by the creepy monsters. Suddenly, Hana does a complete U-turn and comes back to Spica. She tells her to defeat the other monsters up ahead, so Spica looks at the giant swarm of massive bees. She grins, thinking that she has found Hana's weakness to bugs. Although Hana is scared, she acts tough and claims that her poison just can't affect the bug monsters. Still, Spica continues to rage bait her, so Hana falls for it and uses a large-scale poison spell that defeats all the bug monsters. Hana turns around to show off, but then she realizes that the poison rain is also targeting the students around her. In an instant, she loses her playful expression and becomes terrified that she hurt them all. In a soft voice, she apologizes to everyone else, but the students from the other covens act repulsed by her and decide to avoid her. Hana feels incredibly hurt by their comments, and she turns around in shame. Spica notices that she's feeling so upset, and she tries to comfort her. However, Hana turns around in anger and tells her to stay away from her to avoid hurting anyone else. Watching the scene from outside, Claude feels frustrated that his students are falling out when they just started to get along. He notes that time is running out for both Spica and Hana, so if they don't stop arguing and move forward, they'll fail the exam. Meanwhile, in the dungeon's final room, Regulus pants from exhaustion. Although she got in before the other students, she realizes there's no way she can defeat the massive threat looming right in front of her. In another part of the dungeon, Capella wonders how to tackle the entire flock of griffins flying ahead of her. She turns to you for help, but she's too busy taking a nap inside a griffin's mouth. As the careless girl falls asleep, her bracelet automatically activates activates before the griffin's stomach acid can dissolve her body. Stunned, Capella can only scream in frustration at her stupid teammate. Elsewhere, Tarf and Chiron also reach a griffin flock. Instead of working together to defeat the monsters, Tard decides to pamper his prince with a full hazmat suit. Chiron gets offended and breaks out of the armor, saying that he can handle all the monsters on his own. Unfortunately, when he actually takes a step towards the griffin, they immediately chomp him up. Chiron gets disqualified, so Tarf follows him in defeat instead of trying to finish the dungeon on his own. Watching the scene outside, the other teachers start laughing at Claude's special needs students. Claude can only remain silent, hoping that his other students stop screwing up so badly. Meanwhile, Spica's group also reaches the griffin flock room. There, Spica wonders how she's going to get past all the griffins. Thankfully, Hana uses her octuple scorpion magic, which creates a protective poison field around her. This field automatically deflects all the griffins, but Hana warns the other students to stay away from her if they want to avoid getting trapped by the spell. Then, she runs to the end of the room, thinking that the gold must be in reach. For some reason, as Hana gets closer to the exit, all the griffins start avoiding her. She looks back at Spica and the other students, who are still struggling to fend off the rest of the griffins. Hana hesitates for a bit, but she decides to move forward instead of helping them out. As she heads deeper into the dungeon, she gets determined to take first place in the exam without anyone else's help. After running for a little while, Hana finally spots the gold room in the dungeon's depths. She feels excited to complete her goal, but suddenly, a huge griffin approaches her from behind. As she turns around, Hana notes that this gigantic griffin has two heads. The monster roars to show off its power, and Hana realizes that it's a mutant beast. Still, she feels confident that her powerful octuple scorpion magic will help her defeat it. She casts the poison barrier around herself, but the griffin actually uses a powerful lightning spell to break through it. Shocked, Hana is blown back, knowing that she doesn't have another way of defending herself. She wonders if she should give up. Then, she reminds herself that she can never rely on others for help, so she needs to tackle this situation alone. In this moment, Hana recalls a painful childhood memory when she accidentally injured a girl she was playing with. The young Hana couldn't control her poison, so it had infected the little girl. Although Hana was horrified and tried to apologize, the girl glared at her and told her to never come near her again. Her hurtful reaction traumatized Hana, and from then on, she hoped that she would never hurt another person again. This memory gives Hana a burst of anger and motivation, so she stands back up to defeat the griffin on her own. With her final remaining strength, she decides to use it all to cast her strongest spell, Empress Scorpion. The spell creates a huge monster scorpion, which lashes out at the griffin with its giant stinger. Completely unafraid, the griffin retaliates with a huge lightning bolt that shatters the Empress Scorpion along with Hana's dreams and confidence. Devastated, she falls to the ground and accepts her defeat, just when the griffin prepares to finish Hana off. Spica appears and blocks its attack with a wooden wall. Hana looks up, surprised, and she wonders why Spica is helping her. She tells her to stay back, but Spica gets annoyed and reminds her that she's supposed to thank her. Then, she reminds Hana that she seemed happy while exploring the dungeon with her. She thinks that deep down, Hana also wants to make friends. Hearing her feelings completely exposed, Hana gets embarrassed and tries to act nonchalant. However, Spica reminds her that they need to focus on the griffin first. As the monster approaches the wooden wall, Spica asks Hana to assist her in defeating the griffin. Hana refuses, thinking that she could hurt her again with her poison magic, just like she did with the poison rain. She tells Spica that she doesn't want anyone to look at her like she's a monster, but Spica calmly tells her that she's not afraid. Then, she notes that the mutant griffin is hesitating to attack them. Hana thinks that she's scared of Spica's wooden magic, since wood doesn't conduct electricity very well. She thinks that Spica's magic could be the key to defeating it, and she whispers a strategy in her ear. Spica nods before running out to distract the griffin. While the monster focuses its attack on her, Hana rushes from behind to get into close range. She uses her poison spell to attack the griffin, and the monster roars in pain. Both girls start celebrating their win, but outside the dungeon, Claude doesn't feel as happy as they do as he watches the battle. Inside, the griffin grins creepily, and Hana realizes that she didn't have enough mana to defeat it. The griffin roars and blows Spica back. Hana helps her stand again, thinking that they urgently need to hide from this colossal threat. That was episode 6. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.
dollar signs, girl. Oh yeah. I heard that you addicted to those hands now, girl.